This is Empire Sports Alliance, Unfiltered. No fluff, no filters, just the real side of sports. We're talking athletes, coaches, agents, doctors, executives, the people behind the scenes who actually move the needle. From building careers to surviving the grind to winning off the field. This is where real conversations collide.
Welcome to another episode of Empire Sports Alliance Unfiltered. I'm Ronnie, I'm the Wealth Guy, my co-host Eric.
Hey guys, I'm Eric, private concierge service for you.
Awesome. And today we got a special guest. We got Tyler Conklin, tight end with the Detroit Lions with us. What's going on, Tyler?
Guys? How's it going? Thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Well, we had several, we had a good amount of athletes on the show so far. And I think normally what we kind of do is start out a little bit, make, sure the audience kind of understand what it takes in terms of like from a journey perspective, like where do you start, et cetera. And maybe we'll just, start out with having you talk a little bit about yourself in terms of how you got into the sport, et cetera. And I think there's a lot to share. So turn it over to you.
So I grew up really playing football, basketball, baseball, more so football. And stayed at Division II school in Michigan. My dad played as a walk-on linebacker at Grand Valley State. So I mean, most of my family, uncles, everybody has kind of played sports in some capacity. Just growing up, that's what I did. Basketball was probably my first true love. That was kind of my main focus. We weren't very good at football in high school, and we were pretty good at basketball. We ended up having probably the best basketball team in my high school's history when I was there. One of the worst football teams until my senior year. So all my focus was on basketball, and my senior year I wasn't even going to play football, and two of my good friends both kind of played quarterback, and you're playing football, and I was like, all right. So I already signed to play basketball going into my senior year, so I was like, I don't need to play football. We're not very good. And I was already signed to play basketball at Northwood, which is a Division II school. I signed right after my junior year before I even played my senior year of basketball. My friends kind of convinced me to play. We ended up getting a new football coach, winning and hosting our first ever playoff game in school history. People started calling about football, a lot of like MAC schools, Central, Northern Illinois. And then the one kind of power 4 now was Illinois University. They called about me, and I reached out to Northwood and was like, hey, I'm probably going to go through some of my football recruiting. And, they're like, yeah, you can do that, but it doesn't guarantee that your scholarship will still be there. They offered me a full ride. So not all scholarships Division II are full rides. There's 3 other kids in that class, basketball-wise, going to Northwood, and I was the only full ride out of the other guys. So they kind of got me with that one. I was like, you know what, I'll just go play basketball and, get free school and go be the best, basketball player they've ever had there at Northwood. And, go overseas, and that was kind of thought what my path was going to be. And I got there, and I just kind of felt like I sold myself short a little bit. Like I should have been playing at a higher level. I remember being a kid, I told my mom I was going to be the first ever Division I athlete in my family. I felt like I just fell a little short of what I said I was going to do. I played my first 7 games as a true freshman at Northwood, and I was just unhappy because going through it, wasn't going to class, didn't enjoy school, missed my friends. A lot of the normal freshman year of college things, right? You leave home for the first time, you miss your friends, getting used to, doing things on your own, I guess. But for me, I thought it was all about the sports and just, being short of where I wanted to be. And then I started looking at some other schools, Oakland University, Detroit Mercy, some of the Division I schools that recruited me for basketball. One day I was sitting there watching Michigan State play, the Buffalo Wild Wings. It was like Josiah Price, was the tight end man at the time, and he was like the all-time touchdown leader in Michigan State history for a tight end. He caught a sticky encore touchdown, and I was like, I can do that. I can play. Nothing against Josiah; he had a hell of a college career, but I was like, I can do that. So I kind of started looking at some schools to transfer for football. Everybody's convinced me, just get through freshman year of college. Like, it's a big transition. Like, don't do anything. You're going to regret, leaving preschool. And I was like, I'm leaving. I'm not coming back. And so I asked my release and went home, and I was talking to a bunch of different schools trying to figure out where to go. And yeah.
You play guard, right, Tyler?
Yeah, I was a guard. Yeah, like 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was kind of that journey, and then it was trying to figure out where to go for football. I thought I was going to Michigan State. Didn't have like a college math class at that time. I took like algebra 2 year 2, or algebra 2 year 1 and year 2, my junior and senior year of high school. I didn't like math. Then going to Northwood, you had to take like a beginner's like math class to get like for like if you didn't have up to like calc or something in high school, you would take like a intro to college math class basically. And I left early, so I didn't finish it. And luckily, so Central, Michigan State didn't allow me. I couldn't get in. Like I was all good to go for football for a walk on, but they couldn't get me in school because of that. And then I was gonna go to Wayne State possibly because I was close to home, still Division II, but like I'll be close to home. Maybe that'll help. Then Central Michigan probably recruited me the most out of any school in high school for football. And so they ended up calling me back during winter break and like, hey, we'll let you on for the spring, but that doesn't guarantee you a spot for the 105-man roster, but it didn't come for spring ball. And I just remember running around the house like, I did it, Division I. And even though I was like a walk-on spring ball spot. And yeah, and I got there, played wide receiver, moved to defensive back for like the last 2 weeks of spring ball. Thought I really messed up there. I left preschool and I was playing defensive end. I got like 200 pounds. And yeah, I went home for that summer and I worked in construction. Most guys stay up there, but I just had to make some money as a walk on. And I was like, my buddy who was a year younger than me, was a quarterback, he went to a small school, Siena Heights. He was a quarterback. I was like, no, I just moved to Siena Heights. I'll play football and basketball. And like, it'd be good. I'll be there with you. I'll dominate. Now I was going to leave and go to Siena Heights. Then we went and did a workout and everything. And they like sent release papers to Central Michigan, and the defensive line coach, Rick, called me like, "Hey, like why are we getting these release papers?" And it was like, I have no idea. I was gonna ask you guys about to move to tight end though. And he's like, let me see if I can talk to them. Let me see. And then they called me back like, "Yeah, we'll move you to tight end." That's kind
Which
of
one do you prefer better in terms of like, having made the switch? Again, you play D-line, versus tight end. You prefer tight
I
end?
played D-line for 2 weeks, and it was, I never really played defense. In high school, I played like corner and safety. Like I said, we were 0-27 going to my senior year of college.
You play corner at your size?
Yeah, we were very good. I think I led the team in interceptions, like 3 interceptions, and I led the team in touchdowns with 3 touchdowns my junior year. We ran an unbalanced offense, and we were awful. And then we got a new head coach that year, and he said, hey, we're going to win and host our first ever playoff. And everybody's like, no way, dude. Like, we haven't won a game in 3 years. And then he came in and he did exactly what he said. So that's the journey kind of summed up from, really just basketball being my thing, travel basketball. That's all I really did. Didn't really work out, but you needed it for basketball. Just always in the gym, Obviously, it was different back then, right? It was like setting up garbage cans and training yourself. Now every kid had a trainer for, everything nowadays. And I always tell people when I talk about it, it's like everybody kind of has that pivot moment, starting a business or whatever it may be. At some point in your life, they kind of reach a point of like, man, do I need to pivot? Or, the main thing I kind of explain is like, hey, I kind of like reverse engineer everything, right? Like, how do I, where's the final goal and how do I work back from it? And I feel like it just helps allow you to kind of take a little less wrong turns. Like it's not going to be perfect, right? You're not going to make the right decision, but if you know where you want to get, it's easier to work, back from there. And, my thing was like being a professional athlete, the spot was going to be basketball. At one point I kind of realized that, yeah, I'm probably not going for the NBA. But like, I think like I'm watching this guy do some pretty good stuff at Michigan State. And if I could do that at Michigan State, I could probably go to the NFL. And I was like, yeah, if I make that jump, like that gives me the best opportunity to go pro. Whether the thought process was exactly like that at 18 years old, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know the end goal is always how do I become a professional athlete? And that's kind of how it all, pieced together.
Nice. So what did you see from a difference in terms of like high school versus like college? Obviously, again, you started playing tight end at Central Michigan. So what was that like?
From like a football standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're all big jumps, right?
Yeah.
High school, like all I did was catch jump balls and fades and run posts and slants. And I didn't really, you don't really run a route tree. I never really worked out because I was a basketball player. I didn't think you needed it. And, playbooks are very confusing at the high school level. Then you get to college and you're like, wow, like the playbook's difficult. We were in a pro style offense too at that time. So it was like, a more difficult playbook, especially compared to the, offenses nowadays for the most part. It's not kind of pro styles in college anymore. Sorry, the sun just woke up. And so that transition was huge, And then it's just as big of a transition, if not more, to the NFL, right? You get to college and like, oh man, like I know everything about football now. And then you get to the pros and you're like, wow, I know nothing about football. So it's like, they're all like those jumps are all just huge. Because I jumped from high school to college, you're like, oh man, like, I didn't realize there was this much that went into football. Like I'm, a master of it now. Like I know a lot. Like I could go and talk ball with a lot of people. And then you get to the pros and I know nothing.
Actually, my cousin was the kicker at Central Michigan. back in the day also.
When was he there?
Oh man, he's probably 40, 45 now.
Oh, okay.
Chris
So yeah, I missed him by a
Cartmellette.
little bit.
It's been a while.
Eric, all your
Yeah.
buddies are aging. You know, like he's a young fella. He doesn't know that.
I
This is
know.
like
That's why I
Well,
said
I'm
it's been
30.
a
It's
while.
not. It's only missed him by a decade.
I just like to call Eric old. That's all. But in terms of like, you know, again, do you feel like, you know, your experience having played basketball, like has that helped you from a perspective in your football career? You know, what you kind of learned from a basketball perspective, that stuff that you've been able to use quite a bit?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that translate about basketball to really any sport, right? Just the fluidity of it.
Yeah.
Nothing's as planned as much. It's not as rigid. So when it comes to like running routes and just the reaction of it and whatnot, right? Obviously going up and getting the ball and high pulling the ball translates. There's definitely a handful of things that translate. I would say the fluidity of basketball in general is one of the things that translates the most.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, your story is not that different. Do you know who Devin Funchess is?
Yeah, Michigan guy. I don't know him personally, but from Michigan, went to Michigan.
Right.
Carroll played for the Panthers.
Yeah, I used to work with Devin, but he was originally basketball also, hated the coach, switched to football, and then did that. But after the NFL, he went and made a G League team. So
Yeah, so I went.
yeah, so he was like the only NFL player to go on in the NBA. He didn't go that far with it, unfortunately, but yeah, someone else doing it also.
Yeah. I remember kind of watching him when I saw some of his Instagram and stuff when he started training for basketball. When he was doing stuff like Michael Beasley and stuff.
Yeah, good guy.
If you think about it from a tight end position specifically, there's a lot of guys with, if you think of Antonio Gates, that I think this might be the one position that, had the most, background in basketball, it seems to me.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. There's definitely a handful of tight ends that I feel like,
Tony
make that switch.
Gonzalez, same thing, right? He played
Yeah.
basketball too, I think. So, but okay, so now you're 10. Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was going to say, so when you get to the pros and you're like, man, I don't know anything about football. What was your biggest aha moment? I'm in the NFL now or something like that.
Yeah, I'd say my biggest aha moment was probably more of a physical thing, right? The speed of the game. There's one play we were playing Green Bay my rookie year. The backup tight end, he was more of our blocker. He got banged up. I was the third string guy. Not when I was in the wing formation. I'm the backside of a run, and Clay Matthews was the edge, and he just kind of ran through me. I was like, oh man, this is staying pretty fast. You get off the snap lane, you get blown back. You're just like, oh shit. That's probably one of the moments where I was like, okay,
Clay Matthews, that was your first introduction with the heavy hit.
Yeah, that was one of my early introductions to the NFL, I'd say.
Nice. So you had a pretty good combine down in terms of coming out of Central Michigan, is what I kind of saw. You were drafted in the 5th round, right, with the Vikings, right?
Yeah. So I got hurt. I broke my foot my first day of camp my senior year. Ended up coming back in 7.5 weeks. One of those that kind of started my rabbit hole of just understanding the body and recovery and training and just a lot of things. And obviously that rabbit hole has grown deeper and deeper from year to year. Yeah, and then it's only played 7 games my senior year. With the combine, with the Senior Bowl, performed well. Not as good as I wanted to. I definitely, but I performed well. And then get drafted in the 5th round of Minnesota.
Right on. Well, and again, so what would you say for the audience in terms of the importance of a combine, right? We just went through the draft and stuff. I mean, obviously you read all this kind of stuff in terms of what's on tape, but then again, the combine itself, then the interviews and all that stuff. Did you deal with any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, everybody deals with it, right? You got your psych evaluations, you got all these different tests, the Wonderlic, your meetings, your drug tests at 4 a.m. or whatever it is. Going to the Senior Bowl, you do a lot of interviews and stuff there. So when you get to the combine, if you do a Senior Bowl East-West Shrine game or something, then you usually have less meetings at the combine. But yeah, then obviously you go train for a couple months or whatever it is to go be basically a track athlete, right? Run a 40-yard dash, jump, and then do your couple of drills. So you're doing a different type of training than you usually would do for football for the most part. To go and perform for a couple hours and try to help your stock. I think it's looking back at it, coming out of Central, I really wanted to go to the Senior Bowl. And after the Senior Bowl, man, it kind of sucked. I did the grind of a couple of days. I think it's important for me coming out of a smaller school to be able to go out there and play against, a pool of talent from from most guys from, the 4, I guess it is now or whatever it may be. But yeah, I mean, it's a process I really look forward to. Going to an All-Star game, you watch it from afar, and you watch guys that go to an All-Star game, go to the combine. I mean, it's stuff you obviously dream about and watch, every year. And you're like, oh man, I want to do that one day, right? So it's all excited to go train. I'm excited to do it, but it's definitely I don't know if the experience is as fun as you think it's going to be. But I guess it's also work, so it's not supposed to just be fun. But it's an
And
experience.
do you sing a song?
I actually got pretty lucky my rookie year. I didn't really get too much. I didn't have to get up and sing or do any performance. I had to do a lot of the basic stuff, decorate the room for the holidays, bring in snacks. Just
Stuff
but
like that.
they didn't ask too much of me, right? I didn't have a big rookie dinner. I didn't have to sing. I didn't have to do anything too crazy, right? Just keep my mouth shut for the most part. Do what I'm supposed to do, and just make sure everybody had snacks and the room was decorated for the holidays. Was probably what I did for the most part as a rookie.
Well,
So
see, I think, Eric, you're referring to the fellow that we had on that basically had to come up with a rap, right?
Yeah.
During the interview, yes, before the draft.
Oh, he
So
didn't
you
do any
said
interview.
yeah,
Yeah,
he said a couple teams made him come up with the rap right then and there.
yeah, the
Yeah, I
lyrics
was
and then
like, yeah,
before
man, I
that too.
don't. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't rap. That's probably what I would have told him. Like, I'm not a
What's
rapper.
that?
So I probably should have told him that I don't rap. Like, I'm not a rapper. I'm a football player.
But to that point, Tyler, isn't it like when they have these type of interviews and they ask you this kind of shit, right? There's a response to be had as well in terms of saying, no, I don't do that. To your point, like, no, I'm here for football,
I
not
like to
rap.
think that's what I would have said, but it's hard to say when you're in that moment as a
Yeah,
young kid or part of a GM or scouts or whatever. Looking at it from this situation now, I like to think I would say that. I mean, I definitely would have said I can't rap or I don't know how to rap. But
right.
if I would have said it like, hey, like I'm a football player, not a rapper, might be giving myself a little too much credit.
So you said you pretty much kept your mouth shut. When you're on the field, though, do you still keep your mouth shut, or do you like to talk shit and stuff?
No, it just depends on the day or the game, right? It depends if somebody's chirping. It depends. It kind of depends on the situation. Certain teams, certain players, certain matchups. If you're seeing that guy all day and he's talking, like you're obviously going to talk back. Kind of just really depends. Very dependent.
Any particular experience you can share on that end from a trash
No,
talking perspective?
the one team I remember being like probably talking more than most was when I was in New York when we played Houston. There is a rain game against Houston in New York, and they just were talking and talking and talking. And they had a young defense, good defense. It
Yeah.
was Will Anderson's, it was Petrie and Desmond King and Will Anderson. They had a good defense. But yeah, they talked a lot.
And that's when
I'm
you
pretty sure we
decided,
beat
no,
them. I'm pretty sure we beat them that day too. A decent game, but yeah, they talked a lot. But I mean, there's not like a ton of times I remember just like being too chippy with somebody.
Yeah.
I was probably talking a lot more trash on the basketball court.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a little easier.
Well, again, you go into huddle, you have to get set, right? And
Yeah,
it's not like
it's just easier to just. I mean,
saying,
you got to go to the huddle. You're tired. You got to hear the play,
yeah,
get lined up. It's just a little more. That's why defense probably talks more crap, right? They're more reactionary. They're lining up to you. It's a little more with you. Offense, you got to go in, hit the play, do what's called. So I think there's something to that with defense, just talking a little more than offense.
So again, now you got drafted by the Vikings. Like your first quarterback was Kirk Cousins, right?
Yeah, Kirk.
How was that experience? From a
I like
perspective.
Kirk. I like Kirk a lot. Really catchable ball. Really good dude from Michigan.
Yep.
No, there's nothing like I don't. I think he gets the credit he deserves. I mean, it's just hard to make so much money. People base it off of that sometimes, but I really like Kirk. I love playing with him. I still talk to him, here and there. I love my time in Minnesota in general. I feel like I went as a kid and came out a man for the most part, right? Buy my first house, do all the grown up things, move in with my my now wife. So yeah, so I really enjoyed being in Minnesota. I really enjoyed playing with Kirk. I wish I would have got to play with him for a couple more years. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
You never know, right? He's with the Raiders now, right? So, but
Yeah,
I
hopefully
think
we
he
can
has a
stay in
great career so
Detroit.
far.
You said what?
I think he has had a great career so far. Now, again, he got paid handsomely, but that's fine.
Yeah. Somehow I just think he's got paid so much people try to like use it against him from a
well,
certain
against the
ways. But that's
playoff
just
stuff,
that's
right?
just the media. That's just the media and what the world does.
So you've been on a couple different teams. What's been the experience with the different teams, the environment, atmosphere, the leadership? Which teams stand out?
I mean, I was just in so many different situations, right? When I get to Minnesota, I'm a young guy. It's a much older team. Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, Stephon Diggs, Delvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, Riley Reef, on defense, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendrick, Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, Everson Griffin. A lot of guys that were in at least like years 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good culture. Just came off the Minnesota Miracle. I'm just a young guy, just like kind of mouth shut, try to figure out how the NFL works, try to figure out how to go about taking care of myself, learn the playbook. You're stressed out every day trying to go out there and not mess up and play good ball. Which, being a walk on, like it was really like, being a walk on in college and having limited opportunity and not having room for error and the ability to, mess up and get more opportunities, really prepared me for the NFL, especially going to the older locker room like that as a later round pick and just knowing you don't get, I just is what it is, right? Fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, undrafted, you just don't get as many opportunities as the first, second round pick. So being a walk-on really prepared me for my journey, I think. But yeah, so Minnesota was much different. Then by the end of my time in Minnesota, right, I got my first time starting was in year 4. A couple in year 3 when people got banged up. I got to start here or there. So really tight end too towards the end of the year. And then, going to year 4, the opportunity to start, go get banged up and I played well. And then I go on to New York and, sign my 3-year deal. And then I get to New York, right, much younger team. A lot of guys in like 3, 4, and 5, right? I signed there. DJ Reed signed there. We're both going to year 5. Quincy was in like year 4. Quinton was in like year 4. Then we draft, Brees, Jermaine, Offs. So like at that point, now all your stars are first, second, third, fourth year players. And I'm in year 5, like coming off of like not really being like an older, looked at as an older guy or things like that. And now I'm in year 5 and I'm like, oh man, I'm one of the older guys on this. And then there was older guys on the team here and there, right? Just depending. Obviously, we had Dwayne Brown and Sheldon Rankins was there when I first got there, and C.J. Mosley, and so there was guys, but it was a much younger team overall. So that was just a different experience. So I love my time in New York. Locker room
So
was great.
Tyler, real quick, because I'm a Jets fan, and
Yeah,
Eric,
yeah, I can tell.
knew that was coming. So I'm a big time Jets fan. So the first year was with Zach Wilson, right? And then again, now you're Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
You have a young Zach
I had
Wilson.
8 quarterbacks in 3 years, right? 8 quarterbacks, 3 offensive coordinators, 2 head coaches in 3 years. I feel like I never really got the benefit of the doubt for that, right? Like some people are like, oh man, like you produced this with that situation. And I'm like, oh, I was playing decent for having 8 quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, I really like Zach, right? Zach, I feel like coming to New York from BYU and whatnot, like that was just a big jump for him. And, having like, just being thrown into the fire is, I think, hard for anybody. I think we see it every year with the highly drafted quarterback, right? And a lot of times it just goes all on them. When in reality, it's a lot of different variables that go into any player's success, whether it's a quarterback or receiver, whatever it may be. But yeah, just a really young team. But man, some of my best years of football, just great locker room, a good friend. The coaches were awesome. Coach Mid, my favorite coach I've probably ever had at any level. Tight end room was great with Ruck and Kuntz and CJ Uzama, Kenny Yeboah. I just really enjoy. I wish we could have won games because it's just a really good place to be from like a people standpoint, coaches, players.
Really, that's an interesting. That's very interesting to hear, Tyler, because I mean, the Jets, we always get a lot of shit for like dysfunction, this and that. So you're saying from a coaching perspective,
I mean, there is dysfunction naturally because of losing, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I don't think it's never as good or as bad as the media makes it sound.
Yeah.
But like the guys in that locker room were all good people. Just nobody likes losing, and it's bad for everybody.
Oh, it sucks. Yeah.
It's not good for anybody. It's not good for coaches.
Even
not
if
good
you're
for
not
players.
on the field,
it's not
yelling
good
at the
for
TV.
it's not good for fans. It's not good for anybody to lose, right?
How was it though, from a passionate perspective? Talk about fan base and all this stuff. I always like to ask that, especially somebody that played on my team.
I never really I was always obviously grew up in Detroit, played for the Vikings. My dad's side of the family was Bears fans. I grew up a Packers fan. I think just to make my dad mad. So like I had the whole NFC North. I think I never really thought too much about like the AFC or the Northeast. So getting out there is one of my first experiences, and the fan base is great. I mean, I think it's you go Midwest to Northeast, I mean, you just have good fan bases across the board, right? But yeah, the Jets fans were awesome. They showed a lot of love. They're passionate. Obviously, win or lose, they love it. Well, I can say no great things about being out there. I just wish we would.
Me too.
I wish the taxes were lower.
But you had your best year was with Aaron Rodgers, right? With the Jets. Is that correct?
I think I had my highest in career yards my second year,
Yeah.
which I had 622.
Yeah.
And that's the year Aaron got hurt in the fourth play against Buffalo, right?
I
And
was
then,
at the game,
we
yeah.
kind of had a rotation of quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Had decent years last year with him. Yeah, I mean, another cool thing. Like, I've had the privilege of playing with like a ton of great players, right? Receivers, quarterback, Aaron, Kirk, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson,
Yeah.
across the board. Going to LA and obviously things didn't work out. I like there, but I'll get to play with Justin. I'll be in Detroit and Jay. Like I've been blessed to play with a lot of really good football players.
So growing up a Packers fan, was it cool playing with Aaron? Did you get in a different mindset, like put the little kid in me aside, and now I'm here with him, I'm a colleague, and it's all business?
Yeah, I don't think I really I don't think it was ever really I wasn't like a huge fan. I was always I always knew I wanted to be a professional athlete, so I never really was like a huge fan of like a professional athlete or a professional team. I think naturally my older cousin was a Packers fan, both our dads were Bears fans. There's really nobody else that you could probably guarantee is going to beat the Bears. So I'm thinking, like, looking back at it, as far as my cousin was a Packers fan, and probably why I jumped on board there. But yeah, man, I remember a lot of good memories watching. I just you don't really remember ever being like a diehard. I never really had people's jerseys. Whenever I think about being a Packers fan, I always think about like Brett Favre, Lamont Green, Kyle Driver, Greg Jennings. Like that was like my childhood. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely really cool playing with Aaron. But I wouldn't say that like I had to like tuck my inner child away.
Yeah.
So now you moved on, obviously, from the Jets. You played with the Chargers last year. How was that experience with, again, Harbaugh being a coach, Herbert as a young quarterback? How was that?
Yeah, it was all right. Right, it didn't play out for me football wise the way I would have liked for it to play out. I had an extension offer to stay in New York before free agency. I didn't take it. Free agency kind of fell flat on me a little bit, so I ended up being on a 1 year instead of taking the 2 year I had in New York. Uh, that kind of seemed the best logical situation. Good quarterback, needed a tight end.
Yeah.
Get there and it didn't work out for whatever reason, right? They specialize in like their particular things, the tight ends. We had a blocker, a route runner, and a fullback, and I think I'm kind of a hybrid to do a little bit of everything. Yeah, so it just didn't work out there. But the cool experience I in California. My wife really enjoyed it. Because the weather's nice. Living by the ocean, she could walk around with the baby every day. Like the living was a cool experience. Football, wasn't my favorite year, but it is what it is. That all can be,
And
We had one of my other patients on, Bud Dupree, who's with the Charger.
I like Bud a lot. That's my guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I like Bud.
I think he likes the ocean too. He likes it out there. But
Yeah.
so now you're back in Michigan now. So I'm a big Dan Campbell fan. What's your impression so far?
I really like Coach Campbell. When I was coming out of Central Michigan, he was the tight end coach for the Saints. He came up to Central Michigan and, put me through a workout when I was coming out and, had my meetings with him and whatnot. And after that, I remember thinking, I want to go to New Orleans. I really wanted to go to New Orleans. I didn't really have a tight end at the time. I really enjoyed my workout and my meetings with Coach Campbell. And then Minnesota traded up like 2 picks in the 5th round to draft me. And I ended up going to Minnesota instead of New Orleans. So it is definitely kind of just like a weird full circle moment. Obviously he's a tight end. When they hired him in Detroit, I was all for it, right? Everybody's kind of freaking out because, tight end coach already hiring him. And I'm just telling like my buddies and stuff that are huge Lions fans, I'm like, oh man, like I don't know him that well, but like from my small interaction with him, like I really enjoy it. Like I think it's a good thing. And obviously it turned out to be a really good thing. Yeah, kind of just a weird full circle moment, 9 years later.
What do you see from a tight end position? These days, do you kind of like the evolution of like, if you look at a lot of these fellows these days, right, they're spread out. They're like playing like receivers. What do you see there in terms of, and, for you, where do you consider yourself? Obviously, you can catch the ball. You're not just blocking. So where do you see the position kind of going?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously everything. The whole sport's changing, right, year by year, and it's more pass dominant, sport and whatnot. I like to think I still pride myself on being able to do everything, right? Like I always want to be someone that could play in the run game, I could play in pass protection, I could beat man coverage. And I still take that approach, right? Like I want to be serviceable at just about everything, right? Like if you need to play special teams, I want to be able to play that at a high level. I got to do it. If I got to find a zone, I want to be able to do it. If I got to, playing the run game, playing pass, I want to be able to do it. So obviously, it's evolving. The Pitses of the world, and and whatnot. But then you also got the guys that still do it all, like Kittle and things like that. So obviously, a lot of it is like anything else. It's fit, it's being fit. And there's a lot of variables. You know, how does someone see you? How do they want to use you? And so on and so forth.
So for a young guy, would you agree in terms of getting on the field at that particular position, though, it's still very important to be able to block for your quarterback, or, in terms of
Yeah, I
action?
think it's important to be able to do everything. Unless you're a guy that just comes in like, it just depends on where you're. If you're a first round pick, like the kid that New York just drafted, right? Like,
Unique,
are they
yeah.
gonna expect him to come in there and be able to block all the time? Like, no, we're at 4-3-9, and he's basically a receiver, right? At the end of the day, throw your fastball, do what you do well, and do it at a high level. If you can do that, you're gonna play. Yeah, everybody's not a first round pick and runs, 4-3-9. So.
So looking back, playing basketball and football, how much of an advantage did that give you and help you in your skills now? Because a lot of kids are just doing one position, one sport, and I'm seeing a ton of injuries from it. I'm just curious how you think it helped pave the way for you also.
Yeah, no, I don't love the whole specialization for youth sports. I don't like how serious youth sports have gotten in the first place, right? Like, I don't think that we should take away kids being kids. That'd be interesting. I got a 17-month-old, and it'd be interesting to see how it evolves and how me and my wife handle it when that time comes. I think just doing different things, different movements, different biomechanics, having a wide array of things, and as you get older, you can specialize more, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't think you should be 10 years old, just going and you don't even know how tall you're going to be, how big you're going to be. You don't know what your frame's like at that age for the most part. You don't know how fast you're going to be. I think the concept of just doing different things and creating different, being good at different movement patterns and play baseball, get your hand-eye coordination better. Play soccer, get your, foot-eye coordination better. Do gymnastics, get your overall body strength better. I don't know, martial arts and fighting. I've really grown recently and I love for martial arts. And, I don't love the specialization of it. I think a lot of people prey on parents, hope their kid can go professional. Um, and try to just, everybody's trying to make money off of it. And I just wish we would kind of let kids be kids. And,
It's sad. Yeah, it's
yeah,
sad.
I don't love it. It's something I'll be interested in, and it's going to be an interesting navigation when I get to that time. But I don't love the way it's going. Right? Like, how can you be a kid if you got to go to school, then you got to go to your trainer for? I mean, I couldn't even touch weight until I was 14. Right? I was always going to stunt your growth, whether it's true or not. Right? Like, I was old. Stunt your growth. Don't drink coffee. Can't work out. Just do push-ups and stuff. Like, now as kids, you got strength coaches at 12 years old, and they're hitting coaches or pitching coaches or receiver coaches or whatever it may be. And it's like, man, just let the kids do a bunch of different stuff and do a team sport, do an individual sport, wrestle. I don't know. Like, they all
Yep.
teach you something different. They all help you with something different. In the long run, they're gonna make you a better athlete, in my opinion.
What do you see from a business aspect of things, especially if you look at the NIL and how that's all working? What's your take on that?
I mean, I don't love it. I think at one point, if they would have just allowed us to make money off our likeness, most people would have been happy, right? If you could have went and
Yeah.
signed jerseys, if you could have went and got paid for being on NCAA, if you could have got part of your merch, your ticket sales, your jersey sales. I think if you would have just opened it up like that, you probably could have scratched the itch for everybody and made people happy and kept it college football. Obviously, we're in a completely different realm now.
Mhm.
I don't know enough about it to speak on it and not sound somewhat ignorant, so I'm not going to speak on it too much. But and we're so early on it, and there's so many things changing. Who knows how it's going to play out? But it seems like right at some point we're going to have the SEC and the Big Ten. They're going to basically be like two, farm leagues or D League. That's just it's kind of looks like how it's going to be here at some point, right? You have these different levels. You have the teams that can just throw all the money in the world at it and try to win a championship. You got teams that can almost do that. You got, and it kind of just like keeps trickling down and down. The college landscape would be interesting. I just think at the end of the day, the more you hand out money to high schoolers and college kids, right? At some point, you think the infrastructure for financial literacy should change.
Mhm.
That's going to be a hole in that marketplace. And then it's also going to be an interesting marketplace where a lot of people get preyed on and taken advantage of, whether it's parents,
Yeah.
kids, and whatnot. It's just going to be a trickle down effect, right? Like, the more you're passing out money to high schoolers and college kids, like, at some point you think you're going to have to teach them about some type of financial literacy, and it's just the basic. You're
That's
going to
it.
have parents that probably try to take advantage of whether they mean to or not, or kids or, hey, go on this visit for $10,000. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But there's definitely some positives. There's definitely some negatives. I know I just talked about mainly the negatives, but yeah, it'd be interesting. That's going to be we're so early in it, right? We'll see how it all kind of plays out.
I think you're bringing up a good point. Again, it doesn't just people think it starts at college. It starts at high school. It starts way
Yeah,
earlier than that. Again, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but Eric introduced an agent to me, and basically he's in baseball. He goes out to the Dominican Republic to recruit 12, 13-year-olds, like just because he has to, otherwise. And I just think that's so young, at that level. It's just I don't know.
yeah. I
You
mean,
should
but at the
well,
same time, if you don't do it at that age and you're
yes,
behind, are you
yes,
behind? You're at least gonna feel behind. You might be, you might not be, but you're gonna at least feel it. You're gonna feel that social pressure of being behind. Oh, that's why I think it'd be interesting to how I navigate it, right? Because like I say now, but who knows when my kid's 12 years old and all his friends are doing it and he feels like he should be doing it. And I'm like trying to admit, it's just going to be interesting and it'd be completely different in 12 years, right? That's kind
yeah,
of one point when I did my first camp.
yeah,
I had like college coaches come wanting to help kids get recruited. And then after that year, things started changing. I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to be in this space. And that's why I kind of adapted. And now I created my foundation last year. And, we're hosting our event June 27th, community day slash youth football camp. But he said at one point it was about helping kids in my area that I thought was like underserved and under recruited. And now I was like, oh man, I don't want to just a lot to navigate, a lot of change. And I didn't have the time and want to do all that.
yeah.
I'm happy I made that decision because it changed more than I probably ever could have, you know, thought.
Well, Tyler, I know we're coming towards the end of the episode here, but kind of last question: what's next after the playing career for Tyler Conklin? Anything that you've already thought about at one point? I know you're way away from that, but still, just
Yeah, I
anything.
always wanted to play 10 years. I'm going on 9, so I at least I'd like get 2 more. That was just always kind of my goal when I
Yep.
first started. For whatever reason, I was like, man, if I could play a decade, like not many people can say that.
Wow. Yeah.
Not many people can say 8, right? But like I just that 10 sounds good. I think about it more and more every year. Just as I get older and you get closer to it, you realize the fragility of NFL and life in general. Sometimes. My brother's military. He'll probably get out here sooner than later. I have a foundation that started, like I said last year. Our goal and our mission is to, strengthen our community and mentor youth through athletics. And we raise money, uh, basically for a grant cycle where whether it's uh, coaches in the community, schools, people who can be whether they're a little league coach or a teacher or whatever, they can apply for their money to, support stuff they want to do in the community, whether maybe they want to start a wrestling program at elementary school, maybe you want to. So I definitely will dive into my foundation and run that. Saturday, we'll have 2 camps, 6 to 11 and 12 to 16, I think, or 11 to 16 are the ages. We'll have food trucks and bouncy houses and cornhole. Try to make it a combination of football just a summer that people can enjoy it and come out and have a good time. So that'd be a big focus. And then just really my thing is I integrate myself in the community, be around the kids, be a positive influence. Sometimes I think about getting in the school district. Sometimes I think about starting a business. It just kind of depends on. We'll see when we get there. Right now, it's just keep try to play good football.
Yeah. Well, again, you still got time, but I think it's important for people to kind of plan
No, you
ahead,
have to
right?
you have to start thinking about it. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to start. I
Yeah.
wish more people you have to. Me and my brother talk about it a lot. Being in the military, he's like, what's he gonna do
Yeah.
when he gets out? And probably music. I'm gonna create something that way he doesn't have to worry about it. We can do it together. I'll create something at some point. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's not just planning from a financial perspective, but it's also, I think, Eric,
Oh,
you've
I
lived
went
some
down that
life
rabbit hole
stuff.
already. That's a deep one.
No, the psychological
I went
aspect
down
of
rabbit holes in both of your guys' things. The body work and that and the financial stuff. And I went down some
Yeah.
deep rabbit holes over the last 5 years. I enjoy it though, and it's important.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
No, I
mean,
mean, I think psychologically as well, though, in terms of like this. I mean, that's a special career that you have, right? The day
yeah.
that all of a sudden, we don't get to run out on the field anymore with a few thousand fans and stuff.
Curious
For
to see how I
psychological.
feel. I'm curious to see how I feel about that one day, right? Like sometimes I look
Yeah.
forward to the peace and quiet of post football. I want to just people are like, do you want to like sports broadcast? I'm like, no, I want to just kind of duck off and be out the way. I've been lucky enough to make a good amount of money, and I won't have to walk or anything. I'll still find something to do and make some more of it. Hopefully, just trying to sit up my hands all day. But I don't know. I look forward to the peace and quiet post football.
Good stuff.
Nice.
Well, awesome, Tyler. I appreciate your time very much. It's been insightful. Again,
Yeah. Thank you
You're
Yeah,
still
very
playing.
I
much
appreciate you
for
guys.
joining
Yeah, no
us.
problem. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.